Greetings. Welcome to GDIC's webinar for the OASIS+ Phase II, Management and Advisory or M&ADomain. This webinar covers both small business and unrestricted tracks for the M&ADomain. My name is Cal, an AI assistant, and I am your host today. With me is Ab Vand, VP for Capture at GDI Consulting and a subject matter expert on self-scoring proposals. Ab will guide you through today's deep dive into the OASIS+ Phase II, M&ADomain opportunity. Ab has over 30 years of experience in capture and proposal management. He is considered an expert in self-scoring as well as traditional proposal and capture efforts. Ab has managed over 1,000 successful capture and proposal efforts, including over 200 successful self-scoring proposals such as OASIS+. He has also held numerous training webinars for various APMP chapters and Apex offices throughout the US. So a few housekeeping notes. First, the link to the recording of the webinar will be sent to you within 24 hours. Second, we will hold a Q&A session at the end. You can send your questions during the webinar by the chat system to the right of your window and Ab will address them at the end. Third, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right-hand side panel on your window. We highly recommend you download the slide deck so that you can always refer back to it. So let's see what this webinar covers. We will first give a quick intro to GDI Consulting Services. Then start with giving the general information on OASIS+. Next we will have a thorough discussion of the scope of the management and advisory domain. From there, we will deep dive into the scoring system for the M&ADomain, and discuss score optimization as well. Ab will also touch on how you prepare the actual proposal or what we call substantiation. The importance of compliance and factors such as pricing and partnering are also covered. Lastly, Ab will provide some strategy recommendations and experience sharing and then finish with the Q&A session. So with that, I will now hand over the control to Ab to start the webinar. Ab.
Hello everyone, and thank you, Cal. As Cal mentioned, we highly recommend that you download the slide deck to refer back to it. Due to limited time we have, I might skip some content, but I wanted to have a full slide deck prepared for you so that you can always refer back to it for full explanations. Also note that we are holding separate webinars for all the 13 domains under OASIS+. And I will post the link to the webinar schedule page on our website in case you want to participate in other domain-specific webinars as well. But note that in each webinar, some of the information is similar. I just don't want you to, see repeat stuff. But when we dive into the scoring system of that particular, domain, that's where the differences arise. Also, for those of you who are unsure if you should go after this opportunity at all and whether you have the minimum requirements or not, we have a pre-qualification assessment service for just $490, and we assess your contracts and tell you your chances and gaps so that you can be sure of your eligibility with minimal cost. I will put the link to that page on the chat as well. Okay, let's start now. Let me very quickly give you a short intro to our company and then dive into OASIS+. So GDI Consulting has been in business for over 15 years, and we have established ourselves as the premier self-scoring experts in the market. This is not a boast. Just see those numbers, including the fact that we prepared 97 successful proposals for our clients in OASIS+, the initial bidding. So 97 awards we got. That speaks by itself. We have over 650 satisfied repeat clients, 86 of whom are very large businesses, some on the top 10 list of largest defense contractors. You can later refer to this page for more information on our company because we're short of time, so I'll skip the rest of this stuff. Now, I won't go into the details of our services, as most of you are repeat webinar viewers, and will just suffice to say that we have 4 main lines of service, including proposal development, capture management, specific support services like competitive intel or price to win, and finally customized training. So we strive to be a one-stop shop for federal and SLED BD needs of small and large companies. Okay, let's start with the OASIS Plus then and get some general info about it. We call it OASIS Plus 101. So it's good to take a look at the previous OASIS contract, which ran from 2015 to 2025. These years are approximations as there were different pools awarded at different times. So this is the graph showing the government's spending on this contract during its course of performance. And you can see that towards its end, the government was spending about $10 to $12 billion per year on this contract. Blue is the unrestricted contracts spendings, and orange is the small business contracts spending. Okay, and in terms of the top 10 agencies using OASIS, obviously GSA has been the main user, but since these numbers are all in the billions of dollars, don't underestimate the other agencies involved. More than 30 agencies have been buying services through this contract. Okay, so let's now look at OASIS Plus. That was OASIS, the previous contract. Let's now look at OASIS Plus. So we have the general information. GSA is the contract owner. It's a multiple award IDIQ GWAC, government-wide acquisition contract, meaning that all federal agencies can actually put out task orders under this. It has an open ceiling, number of awards unlimited, and this phase 2 also unlimited as well. Contract duration is 5 years plus 1 additional 5 years. You can think of it as an overall 8 years now, because we are nearly 2 years into it, or less than 2 years actually. First round was awarded. Phase 2 has started January 12th, 2026, officially has started. And it's a rolling admission system, so there's no due date specific. Obviously, the sooner you can get on it, the better, because then you can participate in the task orders that are out there. Now, there are 6 tracks, as they're called. You can think of it as 6 different contracts. The contracts are segregated by the type of company. So there is a total small business contract or track, 8A small business, hub zone small business, STV OSB, WOSB, and unrestricted. So these are the 6 tracks that we have. Now, just so we have one vocabulary, from here on, when I discuss small business, when I say small business, I mean the first 5 tracks. So all these, the total small business, 8A, hub zones, STV, OSB, WOSB. From here on, when I say it's a small business, especially when we go into the scoring, meaning all these 5. So if you're in any of these, that's you. And then we have the unrestricted, or UNR for shorthand on that. Now, in terms of the numbers of the original OASIS Plus awards, you can see that 588 unrestricted, 1,375 total small business, STV OSB 345, WOSB 309, 8A 181, Hub Zone 131. The numbers might be a little bit more than these because these are, I think, a couple of months old. They might have awarded a few here and there. But do remember that, first of all, there's no competition. So these numbers might double as far as the government is concerned. I mean, there's no competition for phase 2. And also don't forget that this doesn't mean that, for example, if you're going for STV OSB, you have 345 competitors. No, these are, separated into the domains. So we're going to have, these are about the 8 previous domains. 5 have been added for overall 13. So it's not that, these are the numbers of your competitors in each of these set aside economic, socioeconomic types. It also depends on the domain as well. Now, in terms of the domains, left hand side, the orange domains, these are 8 of them. These were the original OASIS Plus. Now they've added 5 more on the right hand side, the green ones. So technical and engineering, T&E, management and advisory M&A, research and development R&D, intelligence services, enterprise solutions, which is only for unrestricted track, facility services, logistics services, environmental services, and to the right, business, these are the new ones, business administration services, human capital services, financial services, marketing and digital outreach services, and finally, social services. So it nearly covers all types of services work except horizontal and vertical construction. Even construction trades are included in facility services domain. So even the trades are there, just the horizontal and vertical construction services are not there. Now, many call this non-IT services contract. That is a mistake. Out of the 97 clients that we helped win on this, 36 of them were IT companies. So depending on the type of IT work, many of them fall in the parallel to the type of work done under, for example, technical and engineering, the first one, first domain, research and development, third one, and intelligence services, and perhaps even in the new domains. So that is why many IT services companies can and should also go for this opportunity. Okay, so let's now dive into the main subject of the webinar, which is the management and advisory, or as we call it, M&A domain. The scope of this domain includes a full range of management and consulting services that can improve a federal agency's performance. So the services are required to try to meet mission goals and provide operating advice and assistance on administrative and management issues of an agency. Now, sub areas include, but are not limited to, what is listed here and on the next slide. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read each of these. You can later refer back to this. So if your line of business is in any of these, then this is a fit opportunity for you. You should expect to receive task orders with scope similar to this once you're awarded the IDIQ. And this is the second slide listing the continuation of the sub areas of the scope of the M&A domain. Now, the relevant NAICS codes and PSC codes, PSC stands for Product and Services Codes. For the management and advisory domain includes those listed here. I will come back to this when we discuss scoring later on, but I just wanted you to understand these are the relevant NAICS as well as the PSCs that we will leverage to actually get our scores up. Okay. Now, if your firm's activities align with the scope of M&A, this is your chance to gain a spot on OASIS+. From small business specialists to experienced incumbents, there is room for many participants. So at the end of the day, who should participate? Firstly, acquisition, grant, and procurement support firms. Those who do acquisition support, grant management, knowledge-based acquisition, regulatory compliance, and coordination with law or policy entities. Secondly, program, project, and portfolio management, PMO firms. Those who do program and project management, integrated program management, EVM analysis, cost schedule performance analysis, program documentation, required management, and interface and configuration management. So all of these fall under program and project and portfolio management firms. Thirdly, strategy, governance, and executive advisory firms. Those firms who do strategy development, governance, decision analysis, executive level advisory support, leadership and organizational assessments, long-range planning and forecasting, and finally, policy analysis. Fourthly, business process and change management consultings or consultancies. Those who do business process improvement, BPI, business process reengineering, BPR, change management, organizational transformation, stakeholder requirements analysis, and risk management. Fifth come cost, financial, and performance analysis specialists. Those who do cost estimation and analysis, cost performance trade-off studies, manpower estimating, financial modeling, budget formulation support, or performance optimization. All of these come under this one. Now, those six one are those firms who do data, business intelligence, and analytics. These would do business intelligence, information analytics, knowledge management, decision support analytics, performance dashboards, integration of support systems, and similar type work. Seventh would be systems integration and technical advisory firms, those who do technical and analytical support, system integration, interface management, configuration management, requirements analysis, or vulnerability assessment. All of these fall under that. Next come the firms who do risk, compliance, and investigative services. So risk assessment and mitigation, regulatory compliance, investigative services, governance, risk controls, and horizontal analysis and protection activities are some of the work that might be falling under this. Ninth would be human capital, workforce, and organizational advisory firms. So there's a separate domain here for that, for human capital, but again, for management advisory, I think many of these HR and human capital workforce organizations can actually participate. Those who do manpower estimating, workforce planning, organizational assessment, change adaptation, and training strategy alignment, that sort of thing. And finally, the last one, hybrid advisory firms. So those who want to go multi-domain, firms that span M&A and the adjacent OASIS+ domains, including R&D, T&E, engineering, technical engineering, intelligence services, logistics, financial services, and business administration. These seem to be closer. I mentioned human capital previously. So these are the type of companies who might be interested for management and advisory domain. Okay, so if we are good that we want to go after this domain, let's understand the scoring system. I'm assuming that you're familiar with the concept of self-scoring proposals. If not, please refer to our previous webinars on that subject. They're available on our website, www.gdicwins.com, and you can go into details of how self-scoring proposals work. For the sake of time, we don't go into that. So let's now discuss specifically the management advisory domain and how the scoring works. So we have a maximum score of 50, and similar to any other self-scoring proposals, at the end of the day, the score you get is the king. So you want to go for the best score. Now there is a minimum threshold of 36 for small businesses, and again, when I say small businesses, I mean 5 different tracks. Total small business, 8A, hub zone, women-owned small business, and STV/OSV. All of these from here on, when I say small business, I mean all of these tracks and submissions. So if you're above 36 for small businesses, you're awarded. For unrestricted, it's 42. So everything is about score. It doesn't matter, how good your team is. It doesn't matter what your past experience with any particular agency is. It doesn't even matter if you worked with the federal government or not. So everything is about score. Now, there are 3 main score factors that create those points that you want. They're called qualifying projects, QPs. You can think of them as contracts. So qualifying projects, federal experience projects, FEPs, and systems clearances and certifications. Now, the king are the qualifying projects, or the 5. In fact, you're supposed to maximum is 5 contracts that you can use for your qualifying projects to get points. And you can see here that it says 41 points for small business out of the 50, and 40 points for unrestricted out of the 50 come from the QPs. And from here on, we will call them QPs and FEPs. So for QPs, the 5 QPs, they create the majority of the points that you can get. And here graphically, you can see that how important the QPs are compared with the other 2 score factors. This is why everything revolves around those 5 contracts that you bring to the table. And let me put your worries at the rest right here. If you don't have 5 qualified contracts, and I'm going to go into the details of what is required and why we call it qualified contracts, you can always bring in a partner and team members and use their contracts. These could be JVs or prime sub relationship. All is allowed. So let's now dive into each of these 3 main score factors and see what sub-factors they have, because the points that are created by the sub-factors, and how the scoring works for each of them. So let's start with the QP factor, which is the most important one, qualifying projects. So for this domain, the management advisory domain, there are 5 main sub-factors under QP factor. For other domains, they differ. Sometimes there are less, sometimes there are more. But for the management advisory, there are 5. So there are relevance, scale, integrated experience, management and staffing, and past performance. Each of those 5 contracts you bring to the table are graded based on these 5 sub-factors. And I'm going to go into each of these separately, but let's consider them graphically also. Here you can see again relevance, the first one, is the most important one. You get 20 points max overall for the 5 contracts. For relevance, the others are smaller, even though you need all of them to get your score above the minimum threshold, which again, remember, 36 for small business and 42 for large business. So let's start with the first one, which is relevance. You get 4 points per contract, and since we have 5 contracts, that's 5 times 4, 20 points. Now these contracts, in terms of the type, they can be federal prime, federal subcontracts. So if you have worked as a subcontractor all your life, that's fine. So you can bring in subcontracts, or even commercial contracts. There's no difference. So even if all 5 contracts are commercial contracts, they're acceptable. And when I say commercial, I mean not only the usual commercial, but also state and local are considered commercial. So you can use those as well. Now for federal prime contracts, these can be standalone contracts or task orders under multiple award IDIQs or BPAs, or single award IDIQs or BPAs, or FSS or GSA Mass or BOAs. All of them are acceptable. But remember, I said task orders under these IDIQs or BPAs, not the BPA or the IDIQ award itself. That's not acceptable. You need to have task orders under them. OTAs, other transaction authority contracts, are allowed, but grants and co-op agreements are not acceptable. So if you've gotten grants, you cannot use those here on OASIS+. Now, contracts must also be based on FAR Part 37 services and not supplies. So you can't use a contract that you provided, some sort of a equipment to the government. That's not acceptable. It has to be of the type services. Okay, now there are 4 requirements for the 5 contracts that you bring to the table. 4 requirements for the 5 QPs. First requirement is the minimum annual value. So contracts must have an annual value of at least $500,000 for small business submission and $1 million for unrestricted. How do you calculate it? For ongoing projects, the total expected, meaning contractual, what's written on the award document, value is divided by the total expected, again, contractual duration, including all option years. So if you have a contract that has 1 year base and 4-year option for a total of 5 years, you may be still in the first year. You don't know if they're going to extend it or not. Nonetheless, this contract is considered 5 years. And if they say the total value is $10 million, even if you've received only $1 million, you still divide 10 by 5 and you arrive at $2 million annual value. That's how you calculate it for ongoing projects. Now, for completed projects, the total obligated, meaning paid, actual payment to you, is divided by the actual total duration. Sometimes, it's 4 years instead of 5 years, 5 years on paper, but you finished in 4 years and they canceled, terminated for convenience, whatever. Or it was supposed to be finished in 5 years, but you finished it in 6 years. So you divide it by 6, not by 5, what's on the paper. And the amount is what you were actually paid. You divide that by the actual duration, and that's the contract annual value if it's a completed project. The second requirement is contract date. If the project is ongoing, it must have been it must have at least 6 months of completed performance. And if it's completed, the completion date must be within the past 5 years from the submission date of your proposal. The 6 months is also from the submission date of your proposal. So if you submit 2 months from now, say in March, then if you got your contract, say in September, it's acceptable. If you submit now, the contract you got in September is not acceptable because it doesn't have a 6 months performance. If it's completed contract, then 5 years from the date you submit your proposal to the government. Third requirement is past performance rating. You must have a past performance rating of above, and I emphasize above, satisfactory. That's the average of all subfactors on your CPARs. Or if you don't have a CPARs, there's a form that comes with the RFP codes JP6. You need to get that filled by the contracting officer and signed. So the average rating must be above satisfactory, and I will go into detail of how to calculate that later on in the future slides. Finally, the fourth one and the most important is relevance to the domain scope. So either, and two ways of proving that you are relevant, this contract that you bring to the table is relevant. One is through auto-relevant NAICS codes and PSC codes. I'll go into that on the next slide. And one is through a JP3 form and using citations from your SAO. Now, if your contract has what they call auto-relevance NAICS codes, which is a list of NAICS codes they've listed, if your contract has that NAICS code already, you're good to go. Or maybe your contract has the PSC code, you're good to go. If not, then you have to get this JP3 form signed by the contracting officer or your prime, and you have to cite sections from your SAO proving that your contract is in fact relevant to management and advisory domain. Now, these are the list of the auto-relevant NAICS codes and the auto-relevant PSC codes. So you can see for the NAICS codes 541611, 612, 613, and 618, these are the relevant auto-relevant NAICS code, meaning that for the 5 contracts that you bring to the table, if they have this NAICS as their main NAICS of the contract, then you don't need to prove anything. For the PSC codes below, the title is wrong. It should be PSC. If your contract has any of these PSC codes, again, you're good to go. You don't have to prove it. And it's an or. So maybe your contract has the proper NAICS code, but not the proper PSC, or vice versa. Either is okay. If you have that PSC or NAICS code, you're good to go, and you don't need to prove anything more. Okay, so that was relevance. Let's now go into scale. So for each QP contract, you get a point if the annual value is greater than or equal to $1 million. Remember, the minimum was 500K, but here you get 1 extra point if it's above $1 million for small business and $2.5 million for unrestricted. Or maybe the value is not that high, but the number of FTEs, full-time employees, is equal or greater than 5 for small business or 12 for unrestricted. Either way, you get a point. So either your annual value is higher than that threshold, or the number of FTEs on that contract is higher, you get 1 point. Now you get an extra point, the second point, if the annual value is equal to or greater than 4 million for small business and 10 million for large business or unrestricted. Or again, maybe the value is not that high, but the number of FTEs is high. If it's bigger than 20 or bigger for small business and 50 for unrestricted, you get a second point. So that's how you calculate. Now, note that the credit is provided for the total annual project value, not necessarily the total annual management and advisory part of the contract. Sometimes the contract has many parts. They don't care here about whether it's towards the management advisory, that value. The total contract value needs to be above those thresholds that I mentioned. Also, the total maximum score of this subfactor is 6 for both small business and unrestricted. So even if your QPs, the 5 contracts, all get 2 points, you don't get 10 points overall. Maximum is 6. So you should be aware of this when you're calculating your total score. Okay, let's go to the third subfactor, which is called integrated experience. Here you get 1 point for per QP if 5 or more labor categories were used in the execution of your contract, or if the QP for that QP, if the scope of the contract covers 3 or more domains out of the 13 domains, you get a point. Note that this is an or, meaning that if a QP has 5 or more LCATs and covers 3 or more domains at the same time, it still gets 1 point, not 2 points. So either LCATs, labor categories, or 3 domains. And when I say 3 domains, meaning that the scope of the contract covers management advisory, but you also did a little bit of, say, business administration and a little bit of technical and engineering. So all of that counts. You have to show it through the scope of the contract. Okay, fourth subfactor is management and staffing. For each QP, for each contract, you get 1 point for any of these features. So there's surge, there's number of subcontractors, and there is personnel with clearance. What does surge mean? Surge is, the definition for surge is increase of more than 10% of the value or the amount of work in less than 40%, less than 45 days of lead time. Okay, so 10% increase in value of the work or the value of the contract in less than 45 days of lead time. That's the definition of surge. If you had that in your contract, you get a point. If you use 3 or more subcontractors in the performance of your contract, 5 for unrestricted, again, you get a point. And here it doesn't mean that they have to be throughout the process of the contract. Maybe you use them for 5 days. That's fine. Consultants are also considered subcontractors. Remember that. And finally, if you have 5 or more personnel with clearance, and clearance means secret, top secret SCI, or Q for Department of Energy. If that contract required, remember I say required, not necessarily, maybe you had personnel for a contract, but the contract didn't require those type of clearance. But the scope must require it, and then if you can show that, you get a point. And again, here the total is 7 for small business, 6 for unrestricted, so you can't get more than that. But one contract by itself, one QP can get up to 3 points. It can have surge, it can have multiple subcontractors and multiple personnel with clearance. So perhaps one contract gets 3, one doesn't get it, so on and so forth. But maximum 7 for small business, 6 for unrestricted. Okay. Lastly, we have the past performance as a subfactor. If all 5 contracts that you bring to the table have a positive past performance rating that is above satisfactory, shown by their CPARs or filled out JP6 forms, as I mentioned, you get a maximum of 3 points. Now, if 4 out of 5 contracts have above satisfactory, you get 2 points. If 3 out of the 5 have above satisfactory, you get 1 point, and below that, you don't get any points. Now, a few important notes. You can use a JP6 form only if CPARs is not available. Also note that I said above satisfactory, and I'm going to explain how you calculate that on the next slide. Now, finally, for the UNR track only, for the large business track, if all 5 contracts that you bring to the table have a very good or exceptional rating for small business utilization subfactor in the CPAR or JP6, you get 1 extra point. That's why the overall for unrestricted is 4 and small business is 3. One thing I want to emphasize, just to make sure that everybody understands, I mentioned the 5 subfactors. You can't change the contract, the QPs for each. So you pick 5 QPs that will give you the highest score based on all these 5 subfactors. Remember that. Okay, let's now discuss how you actually calculate whether your CPAR rating is above satisfactory or not. Now, usually there are subfactors in a CPAR rating, and each are rated separately. So we have technical, or sometimes called quality of service, schedule, or sometimes called timeliness, cost control, management, sometimes called business relations, and business subcontracting or small business utilization. Now, the way you calculate your average score is that you give a point score to the ratings. That is, exceptional is 5, very good is set to 4, satisfactory is set to 3, marginal 2, and unsatisfactory 1. So you replace these numbers for the ratings, add them up, then divide by the number of applicable ones. I say applicable meaning that if a rating is NA, you don't count that. So let's take an example. Assume that we have a CPAR, a QP with the following CPAR on that orange box. So we have technical rated as exceptional, we put a 5 for it. Schedule is rated as satisfactory, we put a 3. Cost control is rated as marginal, we put 2. Management is rated as satisfactory, we put 3. And small business utilization is not rated, it's NA, so we don't count that. So the calculation is 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 comes to 13. You don't divide it by 5, you divide it by 4 because small business utilization was NA. So you arrive at 3.25. Now, satisfactory was 3. So this CPAR, this contract has an average rating of above satisfactory, so we can use it. This is how you calculate whether your ratings are above satisfactory or not. Okay, there is one special case that I want to cover as well. If you have a single award IDIQ or BPA, and my emphasis is single award, not multiple award, a single award, and you being the prime, then you're allowed to bunch up the task orders together and consider it as one of the 5 QPs. That's why it's called a collection of task orders. You can do this just once, so just one of your QPs can be like this. For example, consider the case of a single award IDIQ whose task orders are all around an annual value of, say, 100K or something. So you can't use them by themselves because the minimum is 500K. But you can bunch up together 5 or 6 of these task orders to get above 500K, bunch up the number of FTEs, full-time employees, and all other factors, number of, for example, subcontractors and things like that, and get the points for them. So this is something to consider if you have this type of single award IDIQ with small task orders under it. It does, you can bunch up 50 task orders. It's up to you how you use this. So that was the first main score factor, the QP factor and its sub-factors. Let's now consider the second main score factor, the FEP or Federal Experience Projects. Now it has 2 sub-factors involved. One is the number of task orders and one is the number of federal agencies. And I'm going to cover each of these separately. So you get 1 point for each task order that you have performed under multiple, emphasis on multiple award IDIQ or BPAs. So if it's a single award IDIQ, you can't use that. It has to be a multiple award IDIQ. And you must be the prime, obviously, on that contract. The maximum point is 4, meaning that you can have up to 4 different task orders for to get 1 point for each. Now these task orders can come from one multiple award IDIQ or BPA or multiple award IDIQs or BPAs. It's up to you. There's no difference. And also the contracts don't need to be the same ones you used in the 5 contracts for QPs. These can be completely different ones, or you might use some of those. It's up to you. The requirement therefore is that it has to be a prime federal services multiple award IDIQ or BPA. Secondly, they must have an annual value of 250K, and it's the same for small business and large business. Doesn't matter, but the annual value must be over 250K, and they must have an ongoing or they must be ongoing and performance for at least 6 months, or if they're completed, they must be completed within the past 5 years, again from the date you submit your proposal. Important note, their scope doesn't have to be relevant to the management and advisory domain. Maybe it was a I don't know, technical and engineering, research and development, whatever, advertising. The scope doesn't have to be relevant. Okay, and the second sub-factor is the number of agencies. If you can prove that you actually worked with 3 different agencies, then you get 1 extra point. Now, worked means you have a contract with them. This contract can be a standalone contract or it can be a task order. Remember, this main factor is called Federal Experience Project, meaning that these have to be federal contracts and you being the prime. Now the requirements here are similar. So prime federal contract, annual value over 250K, same for small business and large, and ongoing for 6 months or completed within the past 5 years from date of your submission. Again, they don't have to be relevant to management and advisory. So any contracts that have those requirements and you've worked with 3 different agencies, good to go. Okay. Now, so that was the second main factor, FEP or Federal Experience Project. Now let's go to the third main factor, which is systems, certifications, and clearances. There are 3 sub-factors here: accounting system or systems, facility clearance, and other certifications. Let's quickly go over these. So for the business systems, which includes accounting systems, you get 2 points if you're an approved accounting system for small business. For unrestricted, you get 1 point if you can provide 2 of these. Is listed: accounting system, approved system, purchasing system, estimating system, EVMS, material management and accounting system, and property management system. If you have 2 of these, you get 1 point. If you have 3 of these, you get 2 points. That's how it works. But the important thing is, when I say approved, it means approved by the government. So if you have an accounting system that is approved by a third party, that doesn't count. Doesn't matter whether it's small business you are or unrestricted. It has to be approved by the government. Okay. Now, facility clearance is straightforward. You get 1 point. Doesn't matter if it's top secret or secret. If you have active, and emphasis on active, so pending doesn't count. An active facility clearance. Okay, and the last one is other certifications. There are 5 of them: CMMI level 2, ISO 27001, ISO 9001 2015. The older ones are not allowed. So 9001 2015, remember that. ISO 22301, and then CMMC level 2 or higher. If you have any of these for small business, you get 1 point per, obviously, but maximum is 1 for small business. For unrestricted, you get 1 point for each for a maximum of 2. So that's how this sub-factor provides points for you. Now, one last special case is the mentor-protege JV. I want you to understand this. Now, if you're submitting your proposal as a mentor-protege JV, for QPs, at least 1 QP must come from the protege company. So you can't have a situation in which all 5 come from the mentor. Now, on the other hand, the minimum threshold annual value for each domain is halved, including the management advisory, is halved when a protege submits a contract. For example, for the management advisory services small business submission, the minimum annual value, if you remember, was 500K. But when a mentor protege JV is submitting a proposal, if the contract comes from the protege, it can be above 250K and not 500K. This works for the number of FTEs. If you need, say, 10 FTEs to get points, but if the contract is coming from the protege, 5 FTEs gets you the point. The same rule applies to FEP contracts, Federal Experience Projects. If you remember, the minimum value was 250K, the annual value. But here, if the protege is submitting that contract, it can be above $125,000 instead of 250K. And finally, these rules apply to the UNR submission too. So for a mentor protege JV submitting under a M&A unrestricted submission, the annual value of the protege's contract can be above 500K. Doesn't have to be 1 million K minimum. So that was the scoring system for this domain. Let's now discuss eligibility assessment as well as score optimization. These are the first steps that you should take. If you have multiple contracts, use a tool to first profile your contracts and see what score each will bring for you, and then which 5 QPs to select to maximize your score. I'll show you our eligibility assessment tool on the next slide. To do that, you need to read the RFP and the Q&As, usually the previous Q&As and the latest RFP documents for the original OASIS Plus carefully and fully understand the requirements for each score factor. You must create a table to score each score factor for each of your QPs. Then estimate your best score and do a gap analysis of where you're short. In doing that, focus on maximizing the score on the 5 qualifying projects and maximize the use of your commercial subcontract projects if possible. Now, following your gap analysis, decide on partnering and multiple partners, maybe, to boost your score. You should consider outsourcing the eligibility assessment to ensure you have a good chance of success. Now, this is a form we use to do eligibility assessment for our clients, and I'm going to give you the link for this service as well. It makes sure that you don't spend money on something that you don't have a chance on, and also ensures you know where your gaps are to bring on team partners. So for each contract, you have to, on the column on the right hand side, the yellow column is where you actually respond to them, the value, duration, whether you use 5 FTEs or not. So these are the specific questions that we have prepared that you have to answer to, and then based on that, this is another page. Now, based on the previous slides form, our tool creates this, which independently scores each contract. The 10 columns from the right and the graphical representation of the score below it, are produced from those the previous form that I showed you, and then it automatically picks the best 5 to maximize the score. So those columns that are green are the best 5. The orange column is the final best score you get for each subfactor, scoring subfactor, with the total at the bottom. In this case, it's 44 out of 50, which is good. This is a small business submission. So this is specifically telling you, hey, you're good to go. You don't need a partner. You are a few points above the minimum threshold of 36, so everything is good. Maybe the total comes to, say, 32, in which case where this shows you where you're missing points and what partners to look for to actually get those points above 36. So we call this the eligibility assessment service that we're providing. And if you're interested in our eligibility assessment service, you can click on the offer tab on the right hand side panel to go to the link to read more on the service and request it if you want. Let's discuss substantiation now. Remember, the proposal you're supposed to provide is essentially the documents that prove your self-score is justifiable. These are the award document, perhaps, the statement of work, the SAO, the FPDS printouts of the contract. FPDS is the government website that has lists all the contracts. So it's considered official document when you have a printout of it. The CPARs or the JP6 in lieu of CPAR, and the JP3 form if your contract's NAICS is not what it's supposed to be, or if you're a sub and want to prove relevance and other QP subfactor information. So you need to tag and highlight the relevant information on each piece of document. Let's see some example of this. So this is an example award document with relevant pieces of information highlighted and tagged as well. This is an FPDS printout, again with relevant pieces of information like contract number, dates, values, etc., highlighted and tagged. So this is how you get the documents. Now you can see that there are a lot of moving parts involved, so you need to know what documents you need to present to justify each point score. They're not necessarily just one document required per point score. So you need a checklist, sample here, for example, to ensure that nothing is missing. This is an example of a checklist for the 5 contracts that were selected for QPs are listed at the above under 3. Those are the 5 contracts, and below it are the documents that are needed. And when it's ticked, it means that it's ready and it's prepared. So for each of the score factors, you might need different documents, and they have to be tagged, highlighted, things like that. So a lot of document management work needs to be done. Okay, so that brings us to the importance of compliance in these self-scoring proposals. Due to shortage of time, I will not go into the slides about compliance. I just want to emphasize the importance of compliance. I've seen many companies, in fact, lose because of not paying enough attention to this and not paying the price for ensuring compliance when they're preparing their proposal. So please go through the slides that I have put in here and discuss it with your team when you are actually preparing your proposal. Now, with regards to price, there's always a question as to how price delay plays in the self-scoring proposal submission. The short answer is no score is given for price. They just check it to be within the acceptable range and complete for all items. That's it. A few points. You can refer to this slide later, but essentially you have to provide pricing for 20 LCATs at the SME subject matter expert level, and you want to make sure that you're not below the maximum you are below the maximum acceptable government rate. And that's all there is to it. They give you what is the maximum acceptable rate. You just want to make sure that you are below that. That's all there is to it. So it's very easy to prepare your price form. There's a form that comes with it, with the RFP. You just have to fill it out. Okay, teaming is extremely important in OASIS+. The short rule is if your own score cannot be above the threshold, use teaming, period. No indecision. In OASIS+, everything is about the score. Whether you get your score all by yourself or you have a team of 5 subs, for example, the government doesn't care. At the end of the day, the score is the king. Now, some key points here. I will not go into the details of all of them, but essentially, I recommend, or we recommend as our company, that if you're not 3 to 5 points above the threshold, so this is new. If you're not 3 to 5 points above the threshold, consider using a partner. You need those cushion points, those 3 to 5 points. For JVs, MPJVs, prime sub relationships, all are acceptable. You can use the partners contracts for QPs and FEPs, which account for nearly 90% of the total score. One important factor is that if you're a small business, your subcontractors must also be small under that particular domain. You can read the rest of these points that I've listed here later on when you refer back to it. And we have a free partnering portal. You can see the link here. I'll put it up on the chat as well. So you can actually register here, go find your partner, whether you want to be prime or sub, and this way you can actually communicate with them and reach an agreement and work from there. So this is a free partnering portal. We've already, I think 400 companies registered and got together during the previous OASIS+ submission. So this is something very helpful. Okay, and this is the first page of that site. Let's now discuss strategy and share some experience. So this is perhaps the most important opportunity for many businesses for the next 10 years, or I should say 8 years. There is no competition, so use all means possible to win a seat, including partnering with other companies, either as prime or as a sub. Expand on domains. If you have past performance in any domains other than your main domain, but not the required 5 QPs, don't relent. Use partners and expand your grasp by going after multiple domains. This holds true for both small business and unrestricted tracks. For small businesses, don't stick to just your own set-aside track. First of all, you should also go for the total small business track. It's considered separate from 8A HubZone WOSB and STV OSB. It's a complete track. And secondly, if you have strong QPs, by all means go for the unrestricted track as well. Say you're sure that you get above 42, why not go for unrestricted as well? At the same time, don't be overconfident. Self-scoring proposals are all about analytical thinking. Good writing skills, which is the key strength of us proposal managers, is of no help here. You need to have good analytical thinking capabilities and good document management. Now, outsource if you have not done this before. Even if you have, get your proposal reviewed by an outside source. I've seen many companies lose because of not doing that. Now focus on your QPs. They are the driving factor. I think I've shown that in different ways to you. First, do an eligibility assessment to understand your gaps and the need for teaming. Maximize your score. Use a per contract scoring system to see what your score looks like. If below the threshold, that's 36 for small business, 42 for unrestricted, select a partner as soon as possible. Companies are already teaming up, so you need to hurry. Ensure that you have 4 to 5 question points, as I mentioned previously, even if you have 2 partners to get them. Maximize the use of your subcontracts and or commercial contracts, if you have any. There's no difference. You get the points and that's it. Check compliance, think compliance, and eat compliance. It's really important. Don't lose time. Time is of essence. You don't want to miss the 2026 task orders. So start yesterday, start as soon as possible. And here I wanted to share our experience in terms of the time and resources needed for the preparation and submission of the OASIS+ proposal. There are essentially 4 main phases. There is a phase 0 eligibility assessment if you're unsure about moving forward, but there are 4 main phases. Phase 1, contract selection and score optimization. Phase 2, preparation of the proposal documents. That's essentially the proposal preparation, or we call it substantiation. Phase 3, compliance reviews. It's a phase by itself, important. And then phase 4, uploading to Symphony. Symphony is the government's portal. Don't underestimate this. It usually takes 2 or 3 days. It's not a copy paste. So the graphical representation of the time and resources for each phase is shown also. So you can see that 50% of the time is spent in phase 1, contract selection and score optimization. This is the average we have found preparing over 200 OASIS Plus and other self-scoring proposals. So I just wanted to share this with you as well. So how can we help you on OASIS Plus? Here are the services we have. We have free consultation. Just we set up time to call and we discuss, answer any questions you have. Free partnering hub, which I showed you, and you can go to the website and register and then start finding teaming partners. Pre-qualification assessment. Again, I gave you the link. $490 so that you don't spend money on something that you don't have the minimum capabilities. Also, it gives you where your gaps are, so you know how to partner with others. Full proposal development with dedicated proposal team. So we do scoring, assessment, optimization, full proposal assembly, cradle to grave. Everything is on us. Full and multiple compliance checks, uploading to Symphony. All of this is on us. We are different from other companies. Some companies just give you consultation. That's not how we work. We don't give consultation. We take the responsibility, because at the end of the day, we want you to win. It's good for us. Our win rate is good for you. You don't lose your money and you get awarded. So we take the whole, heavyweight and work, and you just provide us with the documents. We do everything else for you. And finally, for those of you who have in-house teams, we do reviewing and auditing. So we do 2 rounds of compliance checks and score optimization checks, and we also help and audit uploading to Symphony for you. So these are the services we provide. Here are contact information, myself, email and phone number, and my colleague Maron Freedy. So if you have any sales inquiries or you want to set up calls, just contact Maron. Email is usually better for both of us. Technical questions for me, and consulting and sales inquiries for Maron, and we can set up calls, jump on them and discuss any of your needs or answer any questions you might have. Okay, not much time and a lot of questions I see, so let's answer a few quickly. Question from Frank. We want to go for multiple domains, including the M&A domain. How do we prepare our proposal? Good question, Frank. So you have to submit separate proposals for each domain, and in fact for each track. So if you want to go for the M&A domain as well as say T&E, technical engineering domain, and you're both 8A and hub zone, then you have to submit 6 proposals. Total small business for M&A, 8A for M&A, hub zone for M&A, then total small business for T&E, 8A for T&E, and finally hub zone for T&E. So you can see you have a lot of work to do, but that's how you're supposed to provide. Question from Eric, how many subs are acceptable? As many as you like, no limitation, Eric. Question from Stefan, how do we prove and justify surge in our contracts? Okay, so the mere fact that the contract or the SAO mentions the possibility of a surge, that's not acceptable. Or I mean, you don't get the points. You have to show specific documents like payment slips or letters from the contracting officer, reports and things like that, requesting for the surge and the execution of the surge project to prove that it was indeed executed. Okay. Question from Peter. Can we be sub under multiple primes? Yes, but remember that you can't lend them the same contracts if they're going for the same domain and same track. This is an important point, so make sure that that's not happening. And I said and, meaning that if they're going for the same domain but different tracks, that's fine. Or if they're going for the same track but different domains, that's fine again. But the primes, the 2 primes that you're, for example, giving the same contract to, cannot be going for the same domain and same track at the same time. So, for example, assume M&A domain, one is 8A, one is hub zone, that's fine, you can lend them the same contract. But if both of them are going for 8A and then management advisory, you can't do that. Both are disqualified in that case. Okay, this question is about our services. So I see a lot of questions about our sales and inquiries about our services. Those I will communicate with you directly. But yes, as I mentioned, we can supply you, support you fully on this opportunity and provide a full proposal service for you. Question from Conrad. Did I understand that the 6-month performance is as of the date of our proposal submission, so we can wait until a contract is past its 6 months and then submit? Yes, that is correct. However, note that there are 2 urgencies that you need to weigh when making a decision to wait. 1, due to the slowdown in 2025, 2026 is expected to pick up quite a lot, and we will see a lot of task orders, and you don't want to miss those. So the sooner you submit and get awarded, the better. Secondly, we don't know how long GSA is going to keep this window open. They've said that this is a rolling admission, but we've seen them change their policies quite a lot. So we don't want to face a situation in that we have not submitted and they close down the submission window. So the sooner you can submit, the better. But obviously, you have to weigh, whether you have enough QPs and things similar to your question. Question from Alice. Can large businesses also use subs and their contracts for QPs? Yes, you can do that, of course. Question from Paul. What if our contracts don't have CPARs? You mentioned the form. Right. If you don't have a CPAR, there's a form called JP6 that comes with the RFP, and you have to ask your contracting officer, or if you're a subcontractor, if you're using a contract which was a subcontract, you have to get it from your prime to fill it up and sign it and send it back to you. Remember, unlike other bids, the JP6, which is sort of a PPQ, it must be sent back to you, not back to not back to GSA. It must be sent back to you once it's signed, so that you put it inside your proposal and submit it to the government. Question from Jane. How do we do the pricing at the IDIQ level? Okay, so as I mentioned, you're supposed to provide hourly rate pricings for 20 SME LCAS, labor categories. That's it. Those 20 are at SME level. That's the highest level. And also you're supposed to consider the most expensive state and their CONUS, not OCONUS pricing. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your pricing is below the government's maximum acceptable rate, which they actually have provided with the RFP. Question from Alan. Can we use multiple subs? Yes, of course. There's no limitation on the number of subs you can bring to the table. We had a client last time that had 8 subcontractors and they got awarded. That's fine. Question from Jenny. We are an SDV/OSP company. If we use a sub, do they need to be SDV/OSP as well? This is a continuation of the question. I'm assuming they must be small as well, right? Yes, good. It's a good question. Yes, they must be small, but they don't have to be an SDV/OSP. So the requirement is just that they must be small. They don't have to be the same set aside as you. Question from Fred. If our subcontractor has an accounting system that has been approved by the government, can we claim points for it? No. All the points in the third score factor, the systems, clearances, and certifications, they must come from the prime and not from the subs. If you have a JV, that's fine. Any of the JV members can bring that to the table and you get the points. But if you have a prime sub relationship, everything in the systems, clearances, and certifications must come from the sub. But do remember, none of these are mandatory. So we have a few actually clients that got all their points from the 5 QPs and they got awarded. So it's up to you, how you create those 36 minimum points for small business and 42 for large business, and you get awarded. So none of these are mandatory. Okay, so we are unfortunately out of time. So I would like to first apologize for not being able to answer all your questions here. However, I will certainly respond by email to all your questions. Thank you everyone for participating in our webinar. I look forward to seeing you in our future webinars as well. Have a wonderful day.